Good afternoon. Dumelang gape ko gae. Re buile gape tsatseno. Re hosted ke ba CEDA again. Jaaka ne re kile ra bua le rra Thamane mo nakong e hitileng. Ya gore mo di guidelines tsa bone tse di sha tse ba di ntshitseng ka July re simolla go tsanelela mo go tsone. Re tsana into the special sectors. If le ga go gala sente, the special sectors tse le teng le tsa creatives, technology, manufacturing, agriculture, le tse dingwe. Tsatsieno specifically re bua ka ya technology. Mme ga ke no se tsatsieno dina la Mphoeng Mphoeng batho ka bontsi ba nkitse ke le morutabana ko University ya Botswana. But today specifically I am also a very interested person because I am part of a company, a tech company called Spectrum Analytics. Tsatsieno I've got some guests with me, but I introduce say Arsimola kako.
Mphoeng Mphoeng, na ke bidiwa o gone motho wa gae. I'm with a company called Tensor Technologies.
Emma.
Na ke bidiwa Sethebe Manake. I am the founding director of Vantage Properties.
Kagiso Mpa, ke tswa ko Seriti Insights.
So all these companies they all use technology in different ways. Arnana bo ha gompieno go leka go tlhaloganya gore ba dirang ebe re ba re hella re wetse mo kganyeng ya CEDA ya gore kana re ha re ka CEDA ile gore re batla gore gongwe re ka hella ra dimile madi kana gongwe wena go gae ka hella wa dimile madi. So we'll get to that. Re lebelela some of the challenges ibile tse ile gore companies like Tensor Technology jalo face when funding. Now ha le ga koregelwa jaaka re buile CEDA it's in say technology as one of the special sectors. What that means ke gore ha gompieno o tao o batla go lebelela go ka tsa madi ka ha ba lebelelang diloni ka teng for other sectors gone gona le a special treatment. So one of the special treatments is a lower interest rate and even some considerations on security and the kind of security you take. But before ra khakala ra tsena mo go tseo ke batla go botsa re mpa gore kana gate re mo a knowledge based economy gona di dua gate fourth industrial revolution for our knowledge based economy o ka tlanya go se ka henyana.
Fourth industrial revolution is just gore ke high long gore human and technological aspects of say production, of saying processes that we use for manufacturing, for example, and all our daily lives. They meet somewhere where now it enables for automation, where machine ahead, and all these machines now are digital, which allows for us to extract knowledge or extract data from them. So that's why they call it knowledge based. We are able to extract data that can also be used in improving efficiency in manufacturing, for example, in helping with automation and all those processes.
So all the businesses to some extent.
Yes.
Now kita simolla ka re motho ga gae ka o gone ke re tanya gore o mang sente o tswa kae and the business that you're involved in.
Ke a leboga. Nna ke video gone motho wa ya ke buile ke tswa ko ga maila ke mo getse ke nyetse ke na le bana ba babedi mosimane le mosetsana ka diatla ke mo maranyaneng and you'll pardon me, I'll go into a bit of English, but what I do, and for the last 15 now going on 16 years, you can calculate my age now. Going on 16 years, I've been in the business, what I like to call the business of business transformation. It's a bit corny, but what it talks to is partnering with organizations to help them carry out tasks in a way that is more efficient, with a lot more efficacy. But really what you're trying to achieve in that entire ecosystem is to allow these organizations to improve their user experience. We use technology to allow companies to improve their user experience. For my sense, Tensor Technologies just happens to be in the same ballpark of what my career has been about. You can call me a one-trick pony, but that's really what excites me. And to that end, our mission as Tensor Technologies, as a software and technology services business, we have a very clear mission to simplify the world around us using technology. What we do in that, just to unpack that context a little bit for you, we partner with clients, with businesses and society alike to really go for and tackle their most important challenges in their lives. And we find that in so doing, we're able to together unlock the potential latent opportunities that the organizations have that potentially they wouldn't have had without the efficiencies that we bring.
Okay, so just to sort of simplify that,
Yeah.
you mean there's a company in thing, you effectively come in to say "Ubereka yana," you could potentially work better, so effectively a consultant.
Absolutely. So I think the key thing is that you take a process and you want to weed out redundancies from a process. Once you've done that, you then map out this process and overlay a technology so that that process is easily repeatable. So that's really, in a nutshell, if you simplify it, what technology aims to achieve. An ecosystem of processes that one, have visibility and they're very much repeatable, and there's no ambiguity about the twists and turns of any process within any organization.
And as you said, so most of your clients tend to be bigger businesses. How's that? What's that market like, Motswana?
I think the market is great. We don't like to restrict our clientele to what we call big business. I think there's a need to improve efficiencies across the board, all the way from small, medium enterprises through the mid-tier organizations and the large blue chip organizations. Even more so with just on a retail level, interacting with society and providing platforms that allow society to be more efficient in the way that they carry out their daily business.
And looking at where we are, Botswana, trying to become a knowledge-based economy that uses technology a lot more, that means, companies like yourselves, that's where they fit in a lot more. Counseling, look at how the council works, and then assist them to transform and become more efficient, which I guess benefits the customer at the end of the day.
So, and what we like to say, you rightly say, so what we like to say is that we believe that our best customers are your customers as my client. So if I go to just to use an example, if I go to a council and I'm able to provide a council with a platform that allows people to come in and submit their documents in a digital way, it means that the people that are using that platform are actually getting an improved user experience through just the credibility of the platform, the accessibility of the platform in a 24-hour manner. So already there is where we start to talk about this whole idea of a knowledge-based economy. So beyond that point, I think the individuals that use that are also immediately in the same sweep participating in the knowledge-based economy.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Mama Nike's type, everybody knows you from a property side of things. So why are you sitting on a panel? Yeah, technology. Take us through your career and just the evolution of your career.
Yeah, I think for me, I have been seen as a property person over time. But
aren't you a property person?
I have been seen as such. And I've also transitioned from calling myself such simply because I identify as an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, I find different opportunities and I try to follow trends. I try to follow what's the next thing that needs to be happening, and that's what really guides my interest in anything. So I started off Vantage Properties in 2008, alien information company, a market research company, right? And at the time, there wasn't anything like that, like big data, there wasn't all of those languages are fairly new. But I knew then that what I wanted to do was give people information that makes it possible for them to transact in real estate fairly. So the vision has not changed, or the mission of the company has not changed. It's just, I think we have matured into a time that allows us to be able to do that. So in terms of my transition, it was basically, I think, from 2015, where we are reading trends, we are advising clients and all of that, and we are seeing more and more technology is influencing decision making as a whole. And if technology is influencing decision making and we are in the market research field, then that means there's a requirement for us to process faster, to achieve higher accuracy, to manage different simulations of risk when we're dealing with a client. And there's no human that is more capable of achieving that than what you have with your AI and your machine learning. So that's when I sort of having interest in what's this big data thing. I think a lot of people would know my journey in 2017 when we tried to do a capital raise for us to transition into this technology.
Capital raise
at the time, we were trying to list the company on the Botswana Stock Exchange using the venture capital board. We saw it as an opportunity to say, this is what our vision is, and we know it's going to require a lot of money to get there, and we want to partner with institutions and individuals for us to get there. So very, as we did it's called a roadshow, where you go and speak to different investors and all of that, we then realized, perhaps it's not the right time to do this kind of raise. Perhaps it's not the right time for this business to be doing this kind of raise. Let's try and map our own path, show people what we are talking about.
So just to clarify, you weren't raising necessarily for the property company. You were raising as well, we incorporated a tech into it.
Yes, so the component of it was, we are a research company. We need to build a technology infrastructure. We need to have a technology. We need. That's where our transition is. Also because everybody knows me as property, the conversation was, but Stebe, it will be so much easier for you to raise money for a property portfolio.
Why don't you just build a mall?
You know? But the vision was very clear in my mind that what we needed in this country was more consistency, more accuracy in terms of how we develop things, how we provide housing, how malls are built, who are they built for, and things like that. So that's how we transitioned into technology. So the journey was, you know how the journey was for me. So 2017 we do that, and I realized, no, this thing is not going to work in this particular manner. And then I go on a soul-searching trip. I went to China for almost 6 weeks, just first of all to validate my thought process. Mind you, I'm not a tech person at all. And I'm trying to build a tech business. All of these languages I knew. I didn't even know whether there were things called tech startups. I didn't know about so there's these, I didn't know any of these things, and I just jumped myself into it, and I came back with a greater conviction, and this is definitely the route that we must take.
So we've talked about the transition, which sounds exciting. But what does Vantage the company do at its core?
So as I said, our core business is property market research, right? So we have come to building technology that help people to make decisions. And our starting point, initially we had an app where people could be able to access information. It was more people who are our clients already, individuals who are our clients. They would access things like land rates, information about change of land use, and that kind of stuff. And that helped us to learn more about app usage in this country and the things you compete with when you create an app. So now we have moved on to creating a web-based automated valuation platform, which is GoSmart Value, which we released into the market, I think April, and we only did a formal launch about a couple of weeks ago, 29th of August. And that's where we are now making it possible for you to do an automatic valuation from the comfort of your home. And you can get, so there's 3 levels as an individual. You're able to do a quick property valuation, that's what we call it.
I want us to stop you there. Let's break it down what we mean. So valuation or that thing where since you but I need to know what how would that ordinarily be done?
Yeah, so what we've done is the process ya go value there's different stages. So you instruct a valuer, I get, or please go and do evaluation for me. For whatever reason, you want to sell, canally discuss a discuss a development with your friends or investors or whatever, or you want to sell, or like you were saying, for a loan, I get. So what we have done is, as a company that has done valuations, we've automated that process. After automating that process, we've built such a good platform that can offer more to the industry. So we opened it up to allow other valuers to access the information that we have on there. So you can do, like I was saying, Lantla, you can do a quick property valuation, which is how much are properties in my areas going for? Yeah. So it's in your plot number, and it will prompt you, and then it will give you an indication. And then your next phase is if we're sitting here and we are discussing, no, but maybe Ariki said that house instead of that one and all of that, and you want to have a much more clearer indication, then you do an instant valuation, which would ask you things like how many bedrooms that particular house have, bathrooms, garage, other features and all of that, and it will give you an indication of value. Mind you, when I enter, and these things are not entered by a verified valuer. Yeah. So our type of information you is accurate, but it's enough. When I have it highly accurate, it's enough for you to be able to make a decision. Yes, instead of yele, or
and
let's get a loan.
Instantaneous, right? You
yes,
get the number,
it's instant. Yeah. So that one you actually get a report that you are able to use for negotiation, you're able to use for insurance, you're able to use it. You can take the next step, Kayon.
So when you say insurance and stuff, do you mean the insurance companies, potentially even the banks?
Yeah. So the next stage is where we bring in the banks, right? Where you have a detailed, verified valuation. It's verified because it's done by a qualified registered valuer, Kamala wa Botswana. So then you can issue an instruction to, we have an entire list, we've got about more than 50 of them, about 20 50 individual valuers, about 20 companies who are on there, anywhere across the country. You issue them an instruction, they do the evaluation. Once they're done with the inspection, you can get the report within 4 hours. So that also reduces that time, evaluation for a week, for 5 days, for 3 days. Because check your information, which is on the platform. Basanziba check a lend rate, which is on the platform. Basanziba check a comparable, which is on the platform. So it speeds up that process. And like you were saying with banks, we have engaged with banks. The process onboarding is ongoing for the different things, but we do anticipate that a lot of the corporates will use this. We already have had interest in different ways that they want to use the platform, obviously managing their loan books and things like that. So it's quite an interesting time.
Okay, great stuff. Rampa, why not on more technology?
Ronako Seriti Insights, re thusa di company go extract meaningful information from data. Data being the tiniest storage of information. It can just sit there as that, as the smallest particle is storing information. But if you are not going to mine that and get information that's meaningful and that can be used in decision making or in improving processes within your organization, then it's useless. You are just going to pay for storage and not get any value from it. So what we do is we come with our big data tools and try to help organizations find value and extract meaningful information from that, from data. But where does data come from? Data comes from external and internal sources. External sources in an organization would be maybe your social media platforms, maybe your digital platforms, if you have your websites and other platforms that you might be using within an organization, and also data that comes from market research. That's data. And also internally, it would be maybe your HR data. What else? Your
turnaround time. So for argument's sake, customer data.
Yeah, customer data.
Like that, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so such kind of data, we try to find hidden patterns within that data. So now, because fourth industrial revolution has come with technology that allows for huge data to flow in and be streamed and be stored. Now it has, because of the smart sensors now, what they call Internet of Things. Things are interconnected. Maranyana to a point there is so much data that's coming in, and it comes in huge volumes. Now there are tools that allow for us to store that data and also to extract information as the data comes in. So we are selling real-time analysis, but not just basic analysis, but also advanced analytics, where we mine the data and see hidden patterns that a human mind cannot process at a go.
So I think I want us to break that down into an example. Sometimes when we're talking all of these things, we make it sounds like just give us an example of a company, say an insurance company. What would an insurance company use data analytics for?
That's a good example, actually, because insurance companies curate a lot of data, especially customer data. You would maybe say we have customer data as an insurance company, and we have claims data. We have
data. I want us to data. Every time we have a claim, and not claim, Korea, Sananele, Ituli Katazile, Malamang, those that kind of information can be used to see hidden patterns. So say insurance company which is going to influence rate premium. So what we do is that we come in, we get that data, and we create what we call machine learning, which is part of artificial intelligence. Now we let the machine learn from data, from the hidden patterns. 45 anna ko Phakalani a kgwetsa koloi ya 300,000 a bereka tiro ya mo bankeng, or ana le bana ba lekana a nyetse a reng behavior ba gagwe bo ka nna yang a ke motho eleng gore ke risk o ka tsoga ka moso a thula gape a botsa o tsenya le khanya gore o kile a thula kana ga iske a thula. Those type of things. Now we can predict, or we can give you a score, a probability, which is statistics also. We can calculate a probability that, Reonzenyana is highly likely to thula within 5 months, within 6 months. You are informed as an underwriter gore charge rewarding wa tseo kana o batlang go kopa policy mo go lona o mo charge premium e leng gore yana e mo lebagane as an individual e tsamaelana le behavior ba gago le botshelo ba botshela re tswa mo go e hiring ha wa ka botsa 5% ha le go le mo ke 5% yanong o duela rona ba re sa thuling re duela ba thoso ya o mongwe wa bona re nna ya. So now we help organizations come up with such customer centric and personalized products tse leng gore ano di lebagane moreki ka boene le ka ha itsholang ka teng kana ka ha a rekang thata ka teng. Gantsi ha o ka lemoga bo Woolworths bo Spar ba na le di karatanyana tse tsa loyalty cards. So those loyalty cards is just to get your patterns on how you spend and how you frequent their store. So all that data e leng gore ba etsa yone ya gore o nna o tla o swipe borotho swipe tlhapi ka moso swipe gona le pattern because history ya repeat. So with statistical tools we are able to predict your next step gore wa o e ka nna re ka moso tla a botla re ka toilet paper e ka nna re ka moso tla bo re ka metsi. So that then feeds into things like by advertising.
By advertising,
by
targeted marketing.
Well, these are the type of things that you want to see. How it's an
I think just to add on to that, and this just speaks to how we use data. So for instance, if somebody wants to build a shopping mall in any particular location, then we look at what neighborhood is it? How many people? So how many households are there? Typically, how many people are earning income in that particular household? How many people are in that household? What's the average age of that household? And that speaks to how big a shopping mall can you build?
Yeah.
What kind of brands can you put in that shopping mall? What kind of turnover are you expecting? So it all translates into that over time. So we track, so Hansi people track people behavior from people. We track people behavior from their houses. So we say a house in Mphoeng, for instance, value ya bukana. Normally, honna batho ba le 4, 2 kids, two parents, and typically they drive 2 cars, this kind of car. In this neighborhood, honna le mantlo a ntseng jana, a lekana. Therefore, ho ka hiwa mall wa this size, ho tlhokahala clinic ya this size, ho tlhokahala this kind of a hotel will do well, kind of not a hotel, a guest house will do well. So we use that kind of data analytics to determine how viable, like you were saying, you can now predict how things are going to work. So before you put in a big chunk of your money into the development, we then say, it might not work in that area.
So in your instance, investors or people looking to potentially how to make some market research. It's not necessarily just for you and me. It's a lot of it is for bigger investors, who do a big project.
So a lot of it goes into the feasibility study, it goes into investment analysis, it goes into investment proposals. For us, we never put up a proposal that we haven't done the analysis at the back. This thing is not going to fly. Sorry, if you want to still market it, move on to somebody else who's going to be able to, because our data is able to tell us whether something is viable or not.
So effectively, Rampa, you are almost a consulting company as well.
Yes.
That basically comes into, a corporate, a CEDA, a guy, and say, and then this is how we can help you. These are the tools we can use and
so rona ke khanya go thusa go ira di decision tse di based mo di facts, evidencing ya data or data ya real es ka re ka moswabelo o tla wa gela batho molo hela o zingana ka sepe. The next thing, turnover kana batho ba batlang walk in and go mona ke palo e potlana ene gore molo no sa tlhokagale. So that type of information helps in decision making and in making the right decisions that are calculated instead of go akanyetsa head. So technology comes in to help speed up the process because the human mind cannot digest data e go buiwang ka yone malatsi e ba reng ke big data e leng gore irwa motlhogo ke di digital platforms because data no you collect to motlhogo hela on your phone, your patterns wa go Instagram wa guy that's data. It's being collected behind the scenes wena ga o boy.
That's why ukula bana no kopane le motho let's say dikgang e be re ha tsana ka lapeng tsana mo Facebook e go ra re e go mo suggest as a friend.
It's interesting that the conversation has gone the direction of data because essentially the creation of value in technology emanates from data. So the cornerstone, the genesis of enterprise value creation is cleanliness of data, an ability to actually feed his models with data that is integral, data that can be trusted, even her models, data that can be trusted, etc., etc. So, and that's why even one of our service offerings is actually in data quality management and data governance. So we dovetail quite nicely into some of the things that they work on. Because as an organization, in order for you to feed his models with data, it has to be data that you can trust. It has to be data that you can actually, put your blood, sweat, and tears on top of it and say, I swear by this data.
Yeah, and I mean, from my side, as part of Spectrum Analytics, which does something very similar to what they do, what you find is because gompieno go na le dikgang tsa bo 4IR, you get a lot of companies who say, okay, we want to, we want something sa artificial intelligence or something like that.
Yeah.
And then what they effectively, a lot of the time, what they really mean, kind of what they budget for, just the dashboard. So it's just about
they want
we want
the
real
web,
reports.
the web thing
Yeah.
We
or
want the
an
report.
app.
Yeah, and then in your instance, you've said a lot of things there. Like there's a lot of work on the back end.
Yeah.
You have to create the report. You have to look at the processes. You have to do engineering.
It's in
data engineering.
the cleaning of the data,
Yeah.
ensuring that the data is high data quality,
It's
and actually
kept
applying
safely.
applying
Yeah.
platforms in software, because it's going to be software at the end of the day. Applying a software platform that will ensure sustenance of that resilient level of data. So the idea is to clean up before you get to the point where you present, because you don't want to present something that doesn't speak to the true status of your business.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like you say, the first point is always the consulting bit where someone looks, you come in, you say, let's look at your processes.
Yeah.
Then you have to actually re-engineer the processes. That's when you can start thinking about what automation in Libra.
Yeah.
You then need to think about where you're putting this data, the infrastructure that keeps it, and then a big one is cybersecurity. Where, data.
How secure is that
How secure
data?
is
So now you're
data?
talking to
Protection
Yeah.
of personal information.
Yeah.
But,
So yeah.
but also it also goes back to kanya gore, are these organizations asking for such solutions, artificial intelligence solutions? Do they even have the right data? Because you can dream of an AI algorithm that predicts your customer's behavior, but at the end of the day, have you collected enough quality data
yeah.
that speaks to that problem, that will help address that problem? Or you are just collecting names and IDs and you feel that's data? So organizations also need to collect, or rather consult on what type of data they are supposed to collect. There are data that is necessary for them, yes, but also there is data that's necessary for artificial intelligence, and their data might not necessarily mean that it's machine learnable.
Thank you. I think we've touched on what everybody does, and I know these sectors. We've touched on a few different, effectively, business models and what people are doing, but there's a whole bigger world when we're talking about tech, right? And Ohane, I think this is perfect for you because having been a consultant pretty much all of your life, you've had to do transformations for companies. So you've pretty much seen, I think, quite a large spectrum of business models, Jalajan.
Yeah.
Can you touch on some of those, especially on the tech space? Something that we didn't necessarily ask is, how did people then make money out of all the businesses?
So the conversation can be long, but you can also kind of compress it. But it comes from the basis of a business model of any organization, really, because for a business model to work, it has to be clear and concise. So there's no ambiguity about what the business does. What is it that we do? If you ask the first person you meet in an organization, they should be able to tell you what is it that they do. We're a bank. We loan out money. We're an insurance company. We put out policies and we insure people's valuables. To that end, the business model that works in a technology space has to be clear, concise, as I said, and then secondly, it has to be repeatable. So that means that you have to standardize your business model. Know exactly what is it. There's a lot of things that you can do within technology, and I think we can touch on those in a moment. There's a lot that you can do in technology, but what is the niche that you have picked for yourself? And we just saw how each of us kind of looks at different areas differently. But fundamentally, the framework that governs that is going to be that it has to be repeatable. And most importantly for a tech business, and this is critical, it has to be scalable. So the scalability of a tech business, I think technology businesses have the highest level of scalability in that you can...
scalability rang, for Motswana ko gae.
Scalability ra gore
Ai ka gola.
yes, and yes, and the fact that o kgona go isa ko bathong ba le bantsi, right? So the scalability, that's a supermarket. So the scalability of a supermarket is its ability to actually reach new markets. Supermarket. But in so doing, the business model of a supermarket does not allow you to scale without increasing your cost. But the business model of a technology business, and when you look at it, you have to say, if I'm building this platform and this is what I do, how is it I can scale this business? I can scale this platform, I can scale this IP or software without necessarily increasing my costs. So let's take an example of Twitter, which you like very much. So in order for Twitter to come to Botswana and have N number of members in Botswana, they didn't have to hire more salespeople at Twitter. So that's the scalability that I'm talking about. Hence, in technology, we will see that we work around a licensing model. So this licensing model is really about scalability. All I want to do is sell you licenses for a platform that I built 20 years ago. And it's providing you value, and you're giving me money for the value that I'm providing you. So that's really the business model that you want to look at. And then when you now delve deeper into technology in terms of how then can you see it as a business? Because you see there's a difference between, as innovators sometimes, and I have a lot of young innovators that I engage with, I think a lot of the time the challenge is in how do you turn what you've innovated into a business, okay? There's a difference between a platform that you've developed and actually
Business.
that being an actual business.
Yeah.
So when you come to a funder such as CEDA and you say, I've got this platform, quite frankly, all they're interested in is, where's our return on investment? Okay, and I think it's about time we start to look at CEDA not as a government grant, but as an entity that wants to also pull out some earnings from the investments that they make. So the idea of now turning that investment into a business is by saying, what are the costs that you incur to actually sell your platform? So for instance, let's take an example of, you say you sell oranges, right? So if you sell oranges, you're a finance guy, you'll understand more than I do. So you have your cost to buy the oranges from the field, you transport them over to town. So what in finance they call cost of sales is a combination of all the costs you incur from farm to the main mall, right? The fruits themselves, the petrol, the car, the driver, all of that thing that makes
the seller.
cost of sales, and then you sell at a particular at a particular markup, which gives you a margin, and you hope that with some of the other expenses, you can still have a positive number. So that's really how you want to look at technology. And there's three areas in technology. There's many, but there's three summaries that you can group it into. And the first one is a hardware business. So you're selling laptops, you're selling cell phones, you're selling this thing and the other. So a hardware business is very easy because it maps one-to-one to the orange business.
Yeah.
So you're buying the hardware, you bring it over, you've got some costs, and then you put a markup, you've got your margin, you've got your expenses, and you're at least positive at an EBITDA level, and you can, drive that business. We also have a software and services business, which becomes slightly more different and slightly more complex to look at. So here, you have your object equipment manufacturers, so the big companies that own the softwares. So you're not selling your own IP, but you're selling someone else's IP, which means your cost will be the licenses to bring it over, the people that you utilize, your team. So your team to implement the solutions, and then maybe some subject matter expertise support from the object equipment manufacturer and so on.
So to break that down,
Yeah.
make it easier. I mean, all of us read the Microsoft, for argument's sake, we use Microsoft more.
Correct.
So the hardware guy would be the Dell computer that most of us use.
Yes.
And then the software, so where you're talking about is now the person who goes around and says, use Microsoft Word, use that, and sells you all of that.
Exactly. So a lot of businesses around here will be familiar with Office 365. So Office 365 is a software that is owned by Microsoft. Their interest is in selling licenses. So what you do is you're on selling the licenses and you're making some margin and money off of the implementation costs, right? So all of those markups that you put on there become your sales. Again, we go back to the same model. So those become your sales, and then your cost of sales is your licenses, your people, and then some subject matter expertise, right?
Yeah.
And then again, you have your, office running expenses, etc. You hope to get a positive number. The last one, and not the least, is the intellectual property. So you own your own IP. It's important to value that IP, and for several reasons. There's many reasons you might want to value IP. Firstly, you might value IP because there's conversations around a purchase or a sale, transaction. You might want to value IP because you want funding with funders so that they can fund your ramp up and your scaling. Or you might just want to put it on your balance sheet as a value that you can actually potentially draw on.
So
but the model goes back to make what I was saying.
Yeah, the difference between the second and the third would be it's a code, you've created your own app and you're putting it out there. So for argument's sake, you would, if you were trying to compete the Office 365, you would come with your own email.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the key thing, and what I always say to young innovators when they come up with solutions, is really to pick a niche problem that you're solving, because there's a lot of competition out there. If you are so brilliant that you can put together a word editor, I can almost tell you without running any numbers that you will struggle to beat Microsoft Word. So pick a niche of a problem that you're solving, and once you solve that problem, then you don't have to convince anybody to say, because I'm a Motswana, then you have to buy this thing. Then you have a platform that is solving a problem, and the customers will come and get that platform. We are all here on Twitter, we're all here on Facebook, but nobody sold it to us because it was just solving a connectivity problem.
So I want us to now talk about how any funder would look at some of those business models and the challenges that me sitting at home trying to get into that business might have. So the first one you mentioned was a hardware one way you're effectively selling. So in that instance, what would the considerations for a funder be? Do I believe how many products you're actually going to sell?
It's more, do you have exclusivity to selling that product, that equipment, and how special is you selling versus the next person selling? And what kind of margins are you really making, and can that grow?
Exactly. So it's the market.
And kind of there's a difference. There's the one where you're selling the iPad, it's editing, so you're just importing them and selling them, right? And then there's the one where you're like, I'm going to create my own cell phone.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to compete.
So
if someone was in that space, how would a funder look at that? So a funder would have to then say,
is there a market for what you're trying to sell? I think everybody comes down to that. So if it's an issue, hardware, it's a simple thing. How much of this hardware is being used locally? What has been used normally? And what's the deficiency that yours is solving? And why would people go to you as opposed to what they've been using all along, what they're used to? And I think from a technology perspective, people need to, as innovators, we need to accept that it takes quite a lot of investment for the international brands to be here where they are. So sometimes we take it for granted that no, I've created a phone, it's got the same features as iPhone and yada yada yada, but your operating system, is it efficient? Is it secure? Is it what? All of those things, are they part of this thing that you're trying to sell, or is it just an issue or the device and you haven't taken care of everything else around that particular device?
Now, what worries me here is that ordinarily, being a funder, I normally want to fund things that are proven. I don't want to take risks.
Yeah.
But what you guys are effectively saying is that in terms of technology, you are asking to fund an idea and look into the future, but that hasn't necessarily been proven in the past.
So I don't think it's so much of financing an idea. In the world of intellectual property, an idea is not intellectual property, unless if artifacts are what's considered intellectual property. So an artifact is you wrote it on a piece of paper somewhere, there's some evidence of you actually putting it down, there's some witnesses and whatnot, you've developed a little bit of code. So that's something that we can touch, right? So just having it in your head is firstly not an idea. So it would be difficult to sell that to any funder. But I hear what you're saying about only investing in tried and tested platforms. But I think in technology, as there'll be plenty of other examples, funders have actually put a lot of money into platforms that haven't been out yet. Even Uber itself had about $10 million put in by some funders before it started to roll out to the world. So it's about an ability to judge the value of that platform and the potential latent demand that platform can generate into the future and give you your returns.
Doesn't that require different types of funders though? I mean, early stage investors, greenfield investors, right up to the banks. Because problem we think I'm a tech guy, I didn't want to go to a bank and say to kopa loan. And then the bank says, well, I don't see financials, I don't see a track record, I don't. So how do we fill that gap of, from the idea or IP phase to a bankable phase?
I think that's the most interesting thing, and there's a large burden that's placed on innovators in actually getting to market before getting financed, before we can see your customers are real, because you're bringing in something that nobody knows about. There's no research about it anywhere. There's no benchmarking. There's no evidence of this thing before. So particularly here, I know in the US, China and all of that, they have now gotten used to these things can work even if you have never seen them before. But and there's a very big burden on innovators to push that product further than prototype, further than, because you now need to show, yes, I have got customer and this person has paid X amount. And I believe there is this number of these people who are willing to pay X amount. And really the burden then moves to the financier to say, is it realistic for you to think there are this X number of people who will buy the product that you're selling or the platform that you're selling at this particular price?
And that's the challenge you had, I guess, 2017.
Yes, that was the challenge we had 2017, and also I think in 2017 the other thing was we were still selling an idea. It was in my mind, it was crystal clear we need to move into technology. It was crystal clear we need to have machine learning, we need to have AI, we need to process data differently, but I couldn't quantify or illustrate this is exactly what we're going to do with the money, and this is the result we're expecting. But Mphoeng, it's different in that we have built a platform, we have built platforms. It's there, it's people are using it, people are paying Mohoyone and all of that. So the conversation is a little bit different, because now when you ask me what is the technology, I can show it to you.
Yeah. Now on our side, it's a bit difficult in a manner that we sell value where we sell real-time analysis, and sometimes value that you get on big data is it's a continuous process. Like, you are not going to see it later, and it becomes, like she said, innovators to maybe say build a proof of concept or build something that you can show that it works. And also in doing that also and presenting that to people, you are also risking
your IP.
Yes. Okay, sharp.
Then they
about a company over Africa or somewhere. Like we always have to start from scratch, from re ruta rena ba ruta bana wa bona ra ba ruta no gore data ha re data ra say and this is the value that it might bring you. We can even show you something that works, and it needs money also, remember, to build those POCs.
So
it needs money. Who is financing that POC?
And I mean, like Uber, then you find the lead time is very long.
Yes.
Especially Harbuakarona specifically, where a lot of we started talking about technology 2 years ago. So for most people in the sort of in the common space, now you have a scenario where you're trying to sell data. So you then spend.
Who pays for data? I mean, we used to have that. Who pays for data? Who pays for research? And we're like, you're making very big decisions, and you don't know if they're real.
So
Exactly.
what I think is, in terms of technology as a special sector, as we call it, we actually need to, because this is two worlds, the innovator and the funder. We've almost completely left the burden of proving the value of an innovation to the innovator. Whereas, as a matter of fact, if the funder was also capacitated to be able to look at the potential latent value of the innovation, they might have put the money in there. So in having this stalemate, we end up both leaving money on the table. So it's not only, I think we need to get to a point where we have now, within CEDA, we have the agri sector, right? I imagine within that division, there's people who understand, who will dissect an agricultural business for you in 1 minute and tell you this is not going to work. Or this is going to work in 1 minute and we're giving you the money. We need to have a similar concept within technology. Because I imagine that there's a lot of young people knocking down on that door, and they walk back because we haven't built an internal capability that looks at technology as having latent value, even while it's still at
early stage
prototype level. If you get what I'm saying.
So I'm going to so I'm going to get to you and say, let's if you were to fund, for argument's sake, maybe when at 2 years, you're running around trying to knock on doors, you're teaching, and you would need to potentially fund for that. What kind of costs are you looking at? What kind of problems do you have that you would potentially present to the funder, and what kind of market do you present to the funder?
I think it will be skill. Because a lot of these artificial intelligence models and all this, to get value from your data, it requires a lot of data cleaning, which takes the majority of the work. So we have to show that that's where the chunk of the money is going to, in data cleaning. And data cleaning requires tools which we have to buy licensing, and we can get such codes and all that. And then also,
or you can just call me.
Exactly. You see, collaborations. Fourth Industrial Revolution has come with these new business models. Now we can collaborate. Now we can do all those type of things. And so also the skill set. We sans go le thata go bona batho ba ba nang le skill tse re di tlhokang tota.
And they're very expensive.
They are very expensive. They are highly sought after, but now it's hard to find such people.
So, I want us to start winding it down.
If I can just add to the point you were asking, because I think it's I think you were asking what drives the value of a piece of software, and the key value drivers, and I think this is maybe to the young innovators, in terms of what they need to look at, the lenses they need to wear objectively, and you have to be very objective. Is this a platform that people will want? The lenses they'll need to wear is one of, to determine the value of a software, the value drivers are going to be, the technology that you've used. How old is that technology, the currency, how interoperable is it? Does it just work on its own, or does it work with other existing platforms? And then the richness of the functionality in the context of the problem that you're solving. So from there, then the funders like CEDA can then go through a process of, to value the actual platform. And there's different valuation methods that you can look at, looking at extrapolating future value through discounted cash flows and all those things. You can look at comparative value of market valuation of similar products. You can look at cost. And the cost plays two ways. Thank you. And the cost plays two ways. So the first cost is what the replacement cost. So if I were to develop this thing all over again, what would it cost me?
Yeah.
So then you can put a figure on that software just based on that. So you're taking into account the human capital costs, the building costs, all of those things.
Even maintenance.
Even the taxes, all of that stuff. And then the second cost is, if I were to do what this software does for me without the software, what would it cost?
Yeah.
So you can use that as so a young man or a young lady comes up with a platform to count traffic at the traffic light. If we were to, so you go to the council and say, I've got this thing, it will count the number of cars that will pass through the traffic light in a day, and you would be able to, pull some data out of it. You could be able to pull some intelligence.
Decisions on Mapodisi by Mehakai, all of that.
Exactly.
Kind of stuff. Yeah.
So what would it cost to have people on rotation, on shifts, with a piece of paper, doing tally marks
Every day.
and then every day, and then going to the office and loading that information into a spreadsheet so that somebody else can consolidate it for a year.
On,
So then
on
you
the,
can
on
say
the
this
same,
software
on the
is
same
worth
thing, just before you
X.
finish that one, we also need to be careful not to create a need where there isn't. So in that scenario, particularly, the first question from a council perspective is, why? Why do I need all the cars? And is that a very important problem for me? For
Yeah.
me to incur the cost of the program that you
No,
want
for
to
sure,
sell?
for sure. And that was just an example to
Hey.
say,
Yeah.
if you come up with something, there's a way to actually value it.
Yeah.
And there's different ways you can value it. And she's absolutely right. You have to be answering a why.
Why?
Why would people buy my software?
Yeah. And I can imagine one of the toughest things right now for especially in the business that you're in could be to prove a market. But haven't you seen? I think there's potentially been a change in the past year and COVID as well, where suddenly discussions on data and technology and processing and reducing costs and efficiencies and being able, e-commerce, jalo jalo. I'm sure now you're seeing those conversations a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's like COVID has forced us to actually move towards digital transformation. We've been having conversations about digital transformation, but it's just been conversations, and adoption has really been slow. I don't know. There are so many factors, of course, yes, but COVID has actually kind of gave us a push and showed us that you actually need digital platforms, you actually need e-commerce, you actually need e-logistics. You see.
I mean, Stabi, you've a little known thing is that you've been in e-commerce as well.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that and how maybe now versus say when you were trying to launch the platform a year and a half ago, how
Yeah.
maybe that potentially the environment has now changed and allowed.
It's been quite a while. I didn't realize it's been a year and a half. BuyBeDub was or is a platform, because it's still there, it's still live, is a platform for local vendors to sell their products online. So we specifically built it for local brands and local products. So essentially, you have it's like a Shopify, what people would know as a Shopify. You have your own shop.
Or on Amazon.
I like to
Yeah.
describe it more for people to understand what it's a shopping mall with a lot of shops. So the difficulty in the uptake then was more on the why. Why would I want to sell through this platform online? And also the separation between it's my business. I want to drop off my stock myself. I want to collect my money myself. I think people are beginning to realize with the demand increasing with COVID and all of that, that we really need to build strong logistics systems. And Moroyone, what we had said was, it must be an ecosystem. You have a shop, there should be somebody else who, or other people who are on that platform who run logistics. There should be people who are, who have got the, we call them drop-off points, where instead of you dropping off solo, go khale wa go se dropa go phaka line, may the person who wants it works mo CBD. It could be dropped off Hamolapo, ha long gore ha tswa ha o ka speak Hamolapo and go home. So it required an ecosystem, and at the time, I think the conversations that we were having, it was an exciting thing, but nobody wanted to commit to it. And also just the difficulty, monetization, which is one thing that we really need to sort out if we want to build e-commerce in this country, is getting people to be able to pay cheap. So for instance, kerata moroja, so always use moroja as an example. How about horaka moroja go main mall? Copy moroja ke 10 pula. But whether you do like e-wallet, or do like orange money, or do like it will not, you're not going to pay 10 pula for that thing. It probably costs you 20 pula before it's transported to you.
Yeah, and
so
there's a 30 pula cab.
Yes, you know, and it's things like that that we really need to think about it as a country. Why is the cost of transacting online that expensive? Never mind the data, all of these things. What if we really want to carry everybody through on this digital transformation thing, and we want to be inclusive, and we want to include all the vendors, we want to include what we really need to deal with the real issue. If payments are not dealt with, if we don't have a national switch, we won't get there.
Interesting. Now, of all of us here, you've actually embarked on funding and actually talking to CEDA and applying.
Yeah.
Take us through that process. When did you think, Santa, what made you think make a kopa madiko CEDA? For what exactly? Just take us through that process.
Okay, so it started off with the guidelines coming out during lockdown. Okay, this looks interesting. And then I've always thought, I'm never included in so rather I was looking at it from a perspective of what would our clients be able to get. And then there was the CEO talk that you had, and then that I'm youth still, I'm female, what would I lose out of getting cheap money? Because there's nobody who's going to be able to give us that money without us parting with equity. And I don't have a problem with parting with equity, but I want value that comes with the parting of the equity. So it was, okay, fine. Right now what we are struggling with is adoption, technology adoption. So everybody gets excited, oh my God, you can do these valuations online and all of that. They get on their phone, get on their laptop, but how about now it's like, but can I trust that I can pay on this thing and the report will come out? So we've seen that consistently, and we've also seen how much retail business is very expensive in marketing. So in that regard, our technology, yes, we deal with the corporates, we deal with the valuers, and that's a different market to relate with and all of that. That's who we've been dealing with all along.
Yeah.
There's now this retail side of people who need to see you all along, who need you to educate, who need you to engage with consistently for them to learn this new behavior that we're trying to build. And we thought, you know what, this is money that we could get go CEDA. We definitely need it, but let's start with, we don't need them to finance our entire value and wara. We just need this small portion for the part that we need to get our product more into market, to get more market penetration. And so your next question, so that's how I got to it. Well, okay, fine, we need to get this kind of money. The next thing is putting up the document. It was quite a thing. But the fortunate thing is I have been working Lilia in terms of how do we release this product onto market since I think April this year, maybe February, when they were helping us out even in engagements. So the first thing I did was give them, this is my business plan. I want to take it to CEDA. What is your, what do you think? They're like, great, send it through. So we sent it, put it together, documentation, and then I came here for my submission. So we did the submission, and I'll tell you, I was pretty impressed with the initial submission process. We went through the documentation together. She wanted to understand what the papers are and everything. And then the ICT check was online, BURS check was online, SEPA check was online, which says to me, definitely there's a direction
That we're moving to,
that we're moving towards, and that was great. And then I also had my initial interview, I think this week, which was also insight to how they are looking at the funding model, or they are assessing it. And it was great to have that interaction. I think one of the key things that is always required is for the financier, you're saying, to meet you halfway. Help me understand what business this thing is. How does it work? Instead of putting it into a box, but innovation naturally doesn't fit into the box. So far, so good.
So that was so. I mean, if you say you firstly took the decision after the CEO talk, which means I inspired you, and that's fine. That
Whatever.
so that would be what, 5 weeks ago at most?
Yeah.
And then how long did it take for you to put the documents together?
Yeah. So we've always had a business plan.
Yeah.
So it's just an issue of summarizing it in a way that we can put it in a document. So we submitted, I think I did my submission last week, and then got my interview this week on Thursday,
Tuesday,
on
yeah.
Tuesday. And they're doing the site visit tomorrow to the office to engage with, I guess, the business, how it works, getting to understand the resources that we have and things like that. So
Rajazakale.
I hope soon. I hope we get it. So I don't know, and I hope you don't jinx me with this whole thing. So
Yes.
yeah.
All right. We've said a lot, and with tech, it's one of those things that we could never. And I've already challenged Basida. Let's have a pizza where we can have everybody come, and we can do that exactly what you were talking about, Ohone, like move the funders, and not just Balenosi, all of the funders, BIH, all of the. Let's all move to a point a bit better and work so that we're not leaving any money on the table. So I think we've said a lot. I don't want to keep you for too long. Let's do like a round of final thoughts.
Yes, I think for me the final thought is just maybe a message to young entrepreneurs in the technology space to really understand the frameworks and the constructs of a tech business and how you can actually convert it into a going concern as a business. Secondly, if we're going to innovate, let's think long and hard about the why and the problem that we're solving in society or in business for that matter. Let's do our research about what potential other solutions in the same space exist. Can we beat them? Can we not? And be very objective about that process. The process to get to a funder is quite a lengthy one. To get idea into prototype, into a working model, it's quite a lengthy process, and you can find that you have invested quite a lot of money. So it's important to take your mind through the thinking process before you actually throw money away, as it can happen. So it's important to really think it through before you start.
Stebe?
I think from an entrepreneur's perspective, I want to reach out to the funders and also the corporates as a holistic thing. If we're looking at promoting innovation in this country, the most important thing is for our minds to be open to innovation. When we look at if somebody's attempting to solve a problem, if you think that they're not solving your direct problem, help them. I think that's something that we miss a lot in terms of the feedback engagement from your idea to prototype to demoing to the final thing, because we don't engage enough with innovators to the extent that they get to know, no, I'm in the right direction, but this is not the problem that my clients are having, and we can only get there if we are if we do engage with them. The other thing is our customer base is sophisticated in that they have Facebook, they have Twitter, they expect all software to work perfectly because that's how it works. But we must remember, Jorge, we got to experience Facebook after it was done with Harvard, after it was done with the US, after it was done. So we got the perfect product that they continue to have. And for us to move out from here to out, we have to go through those cycles where sometimes things fail, sometimes they work, sometimes the teething problems will always be there. Sometimes you update and the update just messes up, then your site crashes, and those things happen. And we have to be open to, okay, fine, let me understand why that thing didn't work. Maybe even it hasn't been picked up by the supplier or the service provider. Let's be open to innovation and understand it's a journey, it's a process. Yeah.
Remba.
Yeah, I'd just say if we are to be innovative as a country, we need to invest much on education, especially in understanding that innovation is, it keeps on, technology changes. It changes, so we need to keep on learning, relearning and learning, and have organizations and institutions that are open to new business models, new ways of doing things, new ways of transacting. Like she said earlier, her platform required, the whole ecosystem required a lot of collaborations, your logistics company, your what. So we should understand such models in a manner that we don't just hold on to old ways of doing things, old operations research ways of doing things. So technology comes with those changes. It's some of the implications of fourth industrial revolution, new business models. Let's be open to such models. Because right now a kid can just build an app from the basement of their home.
Not even. We don't have free garages.
So yeah, you see, and put that up on App Store, whatever, and the next day, give millionaire. BRSA, those are new business models that are there. We need to be able to accommodate such business ideas that are agile, that because innovation high. So also innovate that we need to keep on learning. We need to keep on bettering ourselves and be able to answer the why question, like he said earlier.
Thank you. I mean, for me, one of the most interesting takeaways from here and from conversations that I've always had with people in a similar space is the collaboration and co-creation, value. We've sat here, most of you had never met before, but you suddenly realized, I could use you, I could use you, I could use you, we could work together. And there are people out there who, you were talking about dub, there's certain struggles that you had. I'm hoping they reach out to you and say, look, how do we resuscitate that? All these people, the people that are selling cakes, that are selling cupcakes, that are selling weaves, that are selling moroja, madila, all of that, come back, because if there are more products on the platform, people will actually want to use them and solve the problem, so that we can actually use all of that. So I'm hoping with this engagement, one, that we will have further engagement with the rest of the ecosystem, so we know what mango kai udira. We always say this skill, but we always complain but no one really knows mango kai udira. So I'm hoping the next step could be, let's have an industry thing where we are able to know what skills do they have, and how then we can potentially work together. I'm going to finally say, before Ratsama, my suspicion is there are probably people who are going to be interested in wanting to be able to contact you in one way or the other. How does someone get a hold of you?
Well, you can go, firstly, you can go on stenciltechnologies.com, or you,
Yeah, ha ke sa uta ha ba e uta.
stenciltechnologies.com,
Okay, cool.
correct? Or you can send an email to info@stenciltechnologies.com.
Stebe?
Okay, I would say go to gosmartvalue.com and value your property or whatever you're interested in. In terms of contacting me around anything really, go to info@vantageproperties.com or follow my Twitter. What's Twitter handle? Setebe Manage. Facebook is the same thing. I can't hide. I'm the same person across the board.
Yeah.
Rona Siriti Insights BW on social platforms, Facebook and Instagram. But you can also shoot us an email. But the thing with emails is that people don't have much access to that. info@siritiinsights.co.bw.
So not the cookout. Anyway, I think thank you guys for coming through. Thank you to CEDA for hosting us once again. Look, I hope we keep these conversations going, and that this was useful for you and for making Batohara and for the audience. I hope we weren't really nosy. And yeah, I'd like to thank you and say good afternoon and thank you for taking your time to be with us. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For the chat.